Good morning, everyone, or I guess good afternoon, and welcome to our weekly show, Step Up to Rise Up, a show that's been created for you to encourage you and inspire you to reach higher and continue to find your authentic self so that you can be all that you were created to be. I'm Linda Nelson. In case we're meeting for the first time, I'm a belief mindset coach, and I am passionate about helping you discover your passions and your purpose so that you can live the life of intention and impact that you were created to enjoy. So we've been talking these past couple of weeks about that particular topic. We talk a lot in this group about journaling, about finding our purpose, about what an intentional life looks like. And so we've been spending in the last few weeks some time with our purpose, and we all have one, and there's many ways to uncover it. Today I'm going to give you 5 different tips, but you probably know this before we begin, that it's going to take some journaling. And I will drive this point home as much as I can. Journaling is a life-changing habit, and many people begin that habit and just don't really get to the sweet spot of what that habit can deliver. In my work in the Believe in You Academy, we spend a lot of time on developing this habit, and it's hard to get started, much less sustain it. But it really is an important tool for you to be able to reflect, to brainstorm, to get thoughts that are in your head out on paper. And much of this inner work that we do, discovering your purpose, is just one of those questions. It takes a lot of thought, and it doesn't just come to us. This isn't a one and done process. This is something that we work on continually. And so on Mondays, I might pose a question to you in our weekly show, Step Up to Rise Up, and it may take you throughout the week. You may think about it in a number of different ways. It may hit you at different times. And it's like that with that inner work that we do to become all that we're capable of being. So today, much in that vein, I thought I would, number one, recap where we've been before I introduce today's topic of the 5 tips to help discover your purpose. And I also want to share some lessons in my garden, because of course I always learn some things there. So before we get into the topic at hand today, I want to remind you to put hashtag Team Live, or let me know that you're here when you hop on, so that I can circle back and say hello to you. And if you're catching this on replay at your convenience, you're also important, and I want to hear your thoughts as well. But just signify that you're on hashtag Team Replay in the comments below. So I thought I'd start today with sharing a little bit of insight that I get while I'm reflecting and pondering and journaling myself. And as many of you know, for me, my happy place is my deck, drinking coffee and sitting with my dog. I even had a picture of that this weekend that you may have seen that I posted this weekend. But it's there that I just kind of look and study my gardens, and they are beautiful. You know, we're in the midst of a lot of growth, which was our topic last month, and it's fun to see everything kind of come alive. But we've also had some tough weather conditions, haven't we, in the last couple of weeks? We've had storms, now we're in heat. We had a whole bunch of rain. We've had wind. And so certainly my gardens teach me a lot about growth and resilience. But today I wanted to tell you what I want to share with you about purpose, because that's obviously the topic today, and it's one that I've been thinking about most of this month. One of the things I noted, and I might have had a posting on this too, if not, I've certainly had this thought before, but you know, it's so unique to look at all the different flowers in the garden. They're all beautiful. individually, they're amazing. They're many colors, many size petals. I mean, they're amazing. They really are. But collectively in my garden, when they form together, that, community of flowers, if you will, they're even more beautiful together. And of course, you know that I think together is better. So it's such a wonderful affirmation of things I already believe, if you will. And then I started thinking, each of those flowers starts out, in the dead of winter, and is going to make an appearance in the spring. And they're all designed for a certain purpose. So some are designed for color, in the garden, and they have beauty in their colors. Some are designed and have purpose in height. That's something else I've noticed. There's some that are ground cover that have beautiful flowers on them. Some just grow, a little bit. Some grow really tall. But again, in that garden, or in the world, if you will, they all have a purpose, and it all adds to the total beauty of what's out there, right before my eyes for all to enjoy. And then the other lesson that I just can't help but notice is that each of those different flowers has their own time to bloom. They're not on a time schedule, although they are off, according to my pictures I've taken, by at least 2-3 weeks from last year. They still come at their own time. They bloom where they're planted in their own timing. And it should be like that with us too. Some of us are late bloomers, some of us are early bloomers, and we all go through seasons. We go through seasons of change, we go through growth spurts, we go through a harvest of sorts, and we have to rest from some of that too. We have a season of preparation, if you will, where we need to rest. And so, again, I love the lessons that I learn in my garden, and I hope you love them as much as I love sharing them with you. So let's recap a little bit. A couple of weeks ago, I posed the question for you, what the world needs more of. And you guys all kind of settled in on the question of love, and that's a great answer, because love is something that we're full of, hopefully, and that we can give away. But it was a reminder again that our gifts, our purpose, if you will, our passions, they were given to us by our Creator to give away. And they're meant to serve others. They're not meant to keep to ourselves. So that was the first question. What I ultimately got to in the answer is what the world needs now is more of you. And I want to inspire you to take that goodness, to take those gifts that you have out into a world that really needs you. We all have a circle of influence, as we've talked in other lives, and we can make a huge difference, one person, one relationship at a time. And then the second week, I was getting you to think about your purpose a little bit. And so I posed the question to you that many of you thought about and answered. And that was, what causes you to lose track of time? Because when you're in your zone of genius, that's where we do lose track of time, because we're so enjoying the moment. We're enjoying that gift that we have, that we often lose track of what's going on with other things. And that is a clue or a hint at some of your gifts too, if you take the time to reflect on that, and more importantly, put it down on a piece of paper. And then today the question was posed, another question to get you to think about your purpose is, what are some of your childhood memories? What is a dream that you had as a child? And thank you, Jody Isaacson, for answering that question ahead of the live. She mentioned that she always wanted to be a teacher when she was younger. And that actually is one of the things I dreamt about also as a little child. I wanted to be a teacher. And you know, that gift that I have in teaching others, inspiring others, as the gift that Jody has in teaching, may have taken, twists and turns along the way, and may have developed into something differently than you imagined, but there's still some components perhaps of that gift, and it still brings you joy in the ideal. So that's another great question to answer or ask of yourself. And it is one of the 5 that we're going to talk about in the 5 tips. Again, it's helpful to write it down and think about not just the answers to questions, but maybe some whys behind them. Like, why was that so joyful? And really dig deep. That, after all, is this whole inner work thing that we do. And we've talked in other sessions about how the brain loves to solve problems. But we have to train our brain to answer more productive questions, if you will. We tend to ask surface questions and we don't get at the heart of the matter. We sometimes have to go deeper and ask deeper questions on a topic. And so asking questions on a regular basis gives your brain opportunities to problem solve, and it's what it loves to do. And so we've talked about listening to that inner voice that we all have. I wish I had listened to my instincts when I was younger more, because my inner voice knows a lot more than I give it credit for. So sometimes we need a coach like myself to help ask those deep questions, because it is hard sometimes to ask ourselves questions that cause us to break through some of those walls we place in front of our brains to try to solve things. So if that's something that you want some help with, just reach out to me and we can see how I might help you on a more personal level. But for today, we're going to talk about a couple of things, the 5 tips that I'm going to give you to discover your passions and your purpose. And again, you have to journal. It's important to write this down. And we've talked about this before. It gives us a record. We actually can see it. Over time, you can see how you're making progress, how things are revealed to you in your silent moments. And so spending time in journaling every day is really key to discovering what you were created for and all the things, exciting things that are still coming your way. Because as we said, God loves you just the way you are, but He's not content to let you stay there. He's always nudging you gently forward. And so journaling about it helps you see some of those revelations and those thoughts that you have along the way. So, tip number 1 is to reflect on your childhood, as we've just said. That's the first. It's often a cue for some things that, you know, we spent some countless hours in as a child, dreaming about what we wanted to be when we grew up. So explore that, journal about that. Think about what are those dreams that you had as a child. And there are cues in there as to what brings you joy and is maybe uncovering some gifts for you. If it's something that has revealed itself over time and you've done more of that in your life, like I have, great. But sometimes it's not so easy. And sometimes, because life happens, we've shelved some of those dreams and moved on to other things. We've been raising children, we've been managing homes. We do a lot as women. And so sometimes those childhood dreams feel like they're never going to come true, that it's something we put away and it's not going to come back. But I would challenge you to go back there and think about some of those things that you dreamt about as a child, because you can always start with making those dreams come true, even if you haven't even started yet. So go back, and tip number 1 is reflect on those little girl dreams, those childhood, what do I want to be when I grow up? The second one, and again, we've talked about this in many different ways, is brainstorming, is really getting out from your head onto paper some of the things that you're thinking about. And tip number 2 would be to ask yourself deeper questions, and lots of questions, to get that problem-solving mind working on your behalf. And so, one area of asking questions, there's many, but this is just one. And again, this is why journaling becomes handy, because sometimes answers to some questions will lead you to more questions later, and you will have that journaling to look back on. So, exploring things you love, for example, ask yourself, you know, what are two qualities, just two qualities that I enjoy expressing the most in my life? What two qualities that I possess do I enjoy expressing the most? Hello, Jody. And in my case, I would say, I wrote this down because I asked you the question, the qualities that I have are encouragement and perspective. Those are two qualities I love to use and express the most. Okay, so write down two qualities, and then next, I want you to write down what are two ways I most enjoy expressing these qualities. What are two ways I most enjoy expressing these qualities? And I wrote down, I love to, thank you, Jody. Jody's got encouragement and leadership. Okay, Jody, now your next question is, what are two ways you most enjoy expressing these? What are two ways you can express it in the world, if you will? And I put down that I love these lives because I love calling you higher, and I love coaching. I love helping people. I love encouraging them, and I love sharing mind shifts and different perspectives with them. So I express that in two ways, through these lives that cause you to think differently perhaps, or maybe encourage you, and then coaching is my second one. So now two ways that you can express those qualities that you have. And so really the purpose behind this, and point number 2, is asking yourself questions, problem-solving questions. And the reason I put that number 2 attached to it as an example for you is because it makes your mind be finite. When you tell your mind 2 things or 3 things or pick a number, it has a framework from which to work. So when you're posing yourself questions, use words like the top 2 or 3 ways or whatever those things might be. So Jody says, let's see, what does she have to tell us here? Teaching and speaking and performing music. Excellent, Jody. And I know you love thinking and pondering about the questions that I pose you. So that was number 2. Ask yourself probing, problem-solving questions. So number 1 is go back into childhood, reflect on it. Number 2 is ask yourself probing, problem-solving questions. Number 3 is discuss your thoughts with others who know you well. Oftentimes, our gifts are discovered by checking in with people who know us really well. They will affirm for us the qualities that we possess, the ways we show up in the world, and they will affirm you on your gifts because those gifts are meant not for you, but for others in serving them. Whoever benefits from your gifts, you're serving them, correct? So Jody, in your case with teaching and speaking and performing music, if you think about that, there are people who benefit from your gifts. And when you discuss, what do you see as my gifts? Or here's some thoughts that I have, the things that I want to take into the world. When they affirm you of a gift, then you know that you have that gift. And that's a way of discovering your passions and your gifts too. Discuss those things that you uncover about yourself with a trusted friend that knows you well. It might be a spouse or a really good friend, but find someone who really knows you well and can speak and affirm you on some of the passions that they see that they are a beneficiary of. So that's tip number 3, discuss with others. Tip number 4 is to create a list of your passions. We are multi-dimensional people. We have lots of passions. some of which, make the top of our list, and some are, maybe keys to what we want to do in our hobby time. Because we're not always able to use our passions on the job, for example, or in volunteering or whatever that might be that gives us fulfillment. So make a list of all of them and just keep free writing. Start numbering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, get to 10, and then challenge your brain to get to 15, whatever that might be for you. But make a list, a passions list, if you will, and then post that somewhere where you can see it. Because when you look at it every day, you can see that list and decide, what, I haven't done X. Maybe it's something like knitting. I'm thinking about knitting some blankets now for my wee one that's due on the scene later this year. And so that's a passion that I have that I kind of forgot about. And it does bring me lots of joy, and I actually can do a lot of reflecting and thinking while I'm knitting. So on my passions list, that's one of them, and I haven't done it in a while. So now I can create some opportunities to do that more. But often we need to be reminded of what those things are that bring joy to our life. And that used to be one that I did in the winter time, because my gardens obviously were in their resting mode, waiting to appear for spring again. So you might look at some of the things that you want more of in different seasons too. But create that passions list and then post it somewhere where you can see it. And then as you look at it, it will remind you of things that you can create some space for in your life. Because we're all about living a life of purpose and intention and bringing joy and fulfillment into your life. So it's a good idea to have it present so you can look at it again. So tip number 4 is creating a list of your passions. And then finally, tip number 5 is to really stop and think about and write about, free write again, what does a life of intention look like for me? Because everyone's going to have a little different view of that. Your life, a life that's fulfilled and full of joy and peace, a life that's living on purpose, intentionally, will look different for each of us based on our special uniqueness and our gifts. So one exercise that you might try to get at this, and it's good for a couple of reasons, is to start out writing on a piece of paper or in your journal, my life is ideal when, my life is ideal when, and then I want you to number your journal 1 through 15, because I want you to write in your journal and start each sentence with I am. So in other words, my life is ideal when I am, and then fill in the blank. 15 times write that. My life is ideal when I am. And so obviously one of the things on my list is my life is ideal when I am at peace in my gardens, or when I am feeling healthy in my lean body. Whatever those things are for you, write those down. And you will notice when you're done with all your 15 that they all start with I am. And we talked about the importance of starting your day with some powerful I am statements. And there's your list right there. Now, what I want you to do is, it's hard to say 15 every day, so pick 5, say, your top 5 from that list of 15, and say those 5 to yourself every single day. And soon, your brain will believe that that is the life, not only that you want, but that you're living, right? Because I am is present tense. I am is a very powerful way to tell your brain what it is you want. So that's a great exercise to take part in. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you got some benefit out of my top tips, and let me repeat them in case you missed them. Number 1 is reflect on your childhood dreams. Number 2 is ask your brain great problem solving questions. Brainstorm and journal about that. Number 3 is discuss your thoughts with someone who knows you well. Number 4 is to create a list of your passions and post it somewhere where you can see it and create some space for that in your days and weeks, whatever they might be. And then number 5, take some time to write out, what does a life of intention look like for me? And start 15 different sentences beginning with I am. What does a life of intention look like? By writing, my life is ideal when I am blank. And free write 15 times that sentence. And then pick 5 that you can say to yourself every day and start creating that life of purpose and intention that you so deserve. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope, as I said, that you got some benefit out of thinking about your intentional life. And then join me next week when we wrap up this series on purpose. And we're going to talk a little bit more about a life of intention and what that all looks like, and what kind of the end result of all of this purpose and intention looks like. So have a wonderful week. Keep thinking about those childhood dreams, thinking about your passions and your purpose and how you want to express that to the world. And I will see you back next week, noon Central, same time. Bye for now.